Hey friends, this is Erman Baradi. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Wednesday, September 16th. As you know, the last few months I've been contacting a lot of people in politics, but also people just like me and you who just want to talk about their beliefs and all that good stuff without interruption, without editing, without even debates. I'm here to talk to everybody in a election year. So they can freely speak their minds. Today, we have Billy Prempeh of New Jersey. Billy was born in Paterson, New Jersey. He served in the United States Air Force from 2009 to 2011, and he is currently running for Congress in New Jersey's 9th District. How you doing today, Billy?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm happy that we can finally sit down and,
Absolutely.
and make this happen.
I have this pen on me for no reason. I just want to seem like I'm like Trevor Noah or somebody, like just at their desk, you know? But it's so cool to speak with you, man. We mentioned this before I pressed record, but I saw you in another podcast, one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, Timcast, and you're so intellectual. And so I just want to speak with you because what I do with my channel is it's not for me to endorse anybody. It's just for me to speak with people who are running for politics. And so when I heard you speak, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Regardless of if I believe what you say, regardless of anyone who's listening believes what you say, it's just really about you and being able to be yourself, right? So congrats on running for Congress. That alone is a huge feat because not everyone has the, I don't want to say audacity, but has the courage to at least run for public office. Because when you run for public office,
you got to be crazy to run for public office.
Yeah,
like I'll just be completely honest. Like who wants to do this all day? People yelling on both ends and resolving issues up all night. But I do it because like I really, really, really genuinely care about the people. And it's like, I've sat down and I've watched my city and my district just go completely downhill my entire life. And the current incumbent has been in charge of my city, especially, and not just the district, but my city especially, my entire life. Yeah. Before he got into any of this, he was on the board of education in Paterson, and he was mayor of Paterson from 1990 to 97, and congressman of the 8th district from 97 until 2013. Then they gerrymandered the district, and from 2013 up until now, as congressman of the 9th district. And Paterson has always been the center point where he uses the city as a springboard to kind of just push his political campaign forward. A lot of people vote just down the line. They vote Democrat, or they vote based on a name they've seen their entire lives. Nobody knows what he stands for or what he actually does, because you go to his website and there's practically no legislation that he's done himself that does anything in specific for the district. It's always some broad bill, and not just that, but it's always something that someone else has written that he co-signed on and say, hey, look, I'm a supporter, but he's not really doing anything. It's like, how could this guy have gotten up to $6 million as of 2018's number, out of 2018's numbers? How could someone in Congress amass $6 million personally that his son, who's a lobbyist, who was actually fired from the Passaic County board for too many no-shows? This guy's going around lobbying, making money literally on the backs of our people, but you're not doing anything for this district. I've seen Democrats, Republicans, Green, Socialists, random people in between. They all don't like Bill, all of them. And not this Bill. This is Red Bill. I'm talking about the blue
disclaimer, guys, disclaimer. Billy Prempeh, your name's close to Bill Pascrell.
And that's another reason why I want to take this guy down. Is like throughout my life, people couldn't say Billy Prempeh, right? So people would call me Little Pascrell or Bill Pascrell, because they like Pascrell, but growing up, it was a name you saw everywhere. It was just on the bumper stickers on someone's car, like, on the mailbox, on the phone nobody uses anymore. So it was just a joke, and seeing that, it's something that's always irritated me throughout my life. So that's a little bit of a personal vendetta as to why I want to get rid of this guy. But not just that, it's like he claims to be a champion for this place, while on his social media, all he's done thus far for the past 3 years that the president's, well, almost 4 now that the president's been in office, is bash the president nonstop. He said nothing about the ridiculous amounts of violence that's been happening in our city, in our district, especially here in Paterson. No word on that. He says absolutely nothing about the voter fraud that took place in Paterson that became national news, not just national, international news. People all across the world were talking about what the heck happened here in little old Paterson, New Jersey. A council election, not a mayoral election, not a congressional, Senate, or governor, massive, huge election. Council, all of them Democrats, all of them in bed together with one another. And the funny thing is, all these guys that cheated, they would have most likely won anyway, honestly. But that's how committed they are to keeping up this fraud, that just to make sure, let me go do fraud. So if they could do this on the municipal level, and our congressman won't even address this or even get the situation under control and look into this, investigate the situation and hold them accountable, how can we expect that during a congressional race like we have right now, where he's not the popular guy, a lot of people don't like him all across the board? How can we ensure that the elections are going to be fair and balanced when he himself is doing nothing about a small council election? When the president spoke about this on television, he came out and said that, you know, why are you focused on what's going on here in Paterson? You need to focus on the country. You're ruining the country with the COVID crisis and all. This was how it was just going on social media. And then everybody, like practically everybody, even his own supporters are like, yeah, we get that, but we don't, what are we, seriously though, what are you going to do about what happened in Paterson? It's like, you know, our elections are at stake. If the Democrats, or if they can do this in the council election, who's say that the Republicans can't rig the election? Which I think is ridiculous on both ends, but I understand, because that logic makes sense. No matter what part of the political spectrum you land on, if something like this can happen on a small level, what makes you believe it can't happen on a larger level? Especially if you are our elected official and you're not actually holding these people accountable, or actually looking into this, or ensuring that our elections will be secure. Instead, you're pushing more propaganda. You're pushing more of a reason for people to say, like, he's out here talking about he supports the post office, when in reality, a couple of years ago, his entire stance on the post office was totally different. Yet now he's going down saying that, like, the post office, like Donald Trump is trying to shut down the post office and they're going to rig elections. To be honest, the post office, well, the postal unions, I should say, come out and say that they're endorsing Joe Biden. How is that not a conflict of interest in a national vote by mail election? How is that not a conflict of interest? He, of course, is not going to call that out, because that's what's going on their side. I would call this out even if it was for the Republicans. This is supposed to be a non-partisan organization that just works on behalf of all Americans. Yet he's trying to get everybody to turn their eyes and turn their focus away from what's really going on and what really plagues our district, and get them to say, listen, all problems are at the federal level, all problems are with the president, as if the people are stupid. And the truth is, people are waking up, people are realizing the nonsense, and they're not going to put up with it anymore. So it took some random guy from New York in a golden building with a tidal wave haircut to come down out of his tower and change the country. Total regular guy, 0 day in politics. And seeing that guy being able to do that, I said, you know what? Maybe it's going to take a 6'2" black dude from the hood with dreadlocks to totally change the 9th district, totally change New Jersey. Probably it's going to take a regular person, because when I'm not in this game. I'm no politician. I'm not like a lot of these guys like Pascal, who's been here for 23 years, or Joe Biden, who's been here for almost 50 years. I believe it's 47 years, or Schumer, or Pelosi. All these fossilized candidates, you know, they've all been there so long that they're fossilized, and you can't get any new ideas through them, but they'll speak as if they're in tune with the public, and they're really not. They have no idea what the public wants, and they're doing things out of their own interests. So I said, you know what? I have no interest. I'm not a politician. I've never been in this game. You know, the only thing I can think of is what's going on in my district, what I see, and I see what's going on in my country, and I see it going in a different direction. I literally have nothing to lose. After all, I live here. I'm a part of this. You know, these people, they have something to lose. They're in bed with a lot of these organizations that protect them, like the NJEA protecting, you know, Blue Bill over here. You know, all of these guys swear their allegiance to a lot of these special interest groups. His son is a lobbyist, for Christ's sake. Yet he's going to say what's best for our people. He's going to say what's best for our district. He'll only come out and talk about certain topics, but won't talk about another topic, because he knows it'll conflict with his interests that he has with his friends. I don't have any of these interests. The only interest I have is I'm sick and tired of paying these ridiculous taxes in New Jersey. I am sick and tired of sanctuary cities that we have going on in Paterson. I am sick and tired of seeing our country move towards a socialist life that many of us don't even understand. We're literally asking for our own destruction. And I don't want to be a part of that. I would be a fool if I sit here and I do nothing about it and watch not just my children, but the future generations see, and not just America, the rest of the world go down this slippery slope. Because America, whether people like it or not, America is one of the leaders of the world. We're the beacon of light in the world. A lot of what the world does follows on behalf of the United States. Our dollar, for Christ's sake, is the world reserve currency. Anywhere you go in the world, at some degree, the dollar is accepted. So we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't believe that the United States sets an example for most of the world. If America starts going down this downhill path, and we can see a lot of destabilization going on across the world as well too, like in Europe, many parts of Africa, Hong Kong not too long ago, there's a lot of discontent. And a lot of this has to stem with the government and the direction that the government's going in. If we don't do anything to try and get our country back on the right track, while all this destabilization is going on all across the country, as well as here in the United States, it's only a matter of time before the whole entire system comes crashing down. It's only a matter of time before we lose everything that previous generations busted their asses and fought and died and bled for, you know, because of a few ideas of people that don't fully have a true grasp of what's going on in society. And the thing is, they don't care about that because they look at the world in a what's in it for them scenario. What's in it for them, right? If I can't get money in this deal or I can't get a specific favor in this deal, then I have no interest and I have no care for it. When I'm looking at things as what's in it for the people, what's in it for the country, what's in it for New Jersey, you know, because a lot of the things that I see them putting forth doesn't benefit us. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring. And I'm ready to knock out this guy politically, not physically.
Gotcha, man. You know what's funny? I got to go back just a little bit. You said the word fossilized, and I thought that was hilarious.
Well, he is. I mean, let's be honest. The guy's 83 years old, totally out of touch. He's totally out of touch with what the people really want. A lot of his stuff on social media, I don't even believe it's him posting it. It's got to be somebody else.
Now, I got to touch on that. I want to touch on that because you mentioned him being 83 and you're 30.
Yeah.
If you look at it on a poster, it's this old white guy versus this young black guy in his 30s, right? So 12 years ago, you'd think that he's Republican and you're the Democrat. But in this year, it's switched around. So, but not only that, it's across the country. And on the local and state level, there are young minorities, people of color, who are running as Republican for Congress, for other seats, right? Why do you think there's been a shift in the last few elections towards what we see now with you running for Congress and other people of color running for Congress who are young, women? We have, like, even the LGBT community has
I would say it's the internet. I would say it's
Okay.
the internet. It's the internet plays a very large role in the awakening process for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people have access to information that we didn't have before. When we were kids, for example, you're what? You're 32, I'm guessing, 31, 32?
You're actually a month older than me. I'm a 89
awesome.
baby.
Okay, great, perfect. So you grew up the same era that I did. You know, when we were kids and we wanted to find information before AOL and stuff like that, we'd go to the library and, you know, read the books and the newspapers and whatever.
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves. Jesus Christ. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, we had like AskJeeves.com or something, you know. It was very different. Today, internet is everywhere. Like the entire world is in this thing and it's in my pocket. You know what I mean? You couldn't even fathom this thing in 1989. Like, look at this. Like, this thing could take down governments if you really do it the right way. God forbid. But you see how the world can mobilize. Information can be shared much easier because for a long time, they had a monopoly. And when I say them, I'm talking about like the status quo, the establishment, both the Republicans and the Democrats. Because let's be real, there's some Republicans that are not doing what's best for the country. That's just the truth. You know, same with Democrats. And I'm sure there's good Democrats too. I'm not trying to be like a... Anyway, the point that I'm making is we now have access to information that we were never able to get before. So they had a monopoly on information. They had the mainstream media, television, and the magazines that came out. With the internet, it allows guys like Erman to come out and make videos, do live streams. People like Tim Pool, people like the Red Elephants, all these people, even the Young Turks. It allowed a lot of people to get information out that was outside of what the mainstream created. So when stuff like this started to happen over time, people's opinions started to form in a much more critical way. Because you can see something on CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever and say, okay, I hear that, but let me hear what the guy on the internet saying, or let me hear what everyone else is kind of talking about. Social media information is traveling. People are talking and spreading news that now that people are able to really discern and think for themselves, and don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of people that are totally sheeped out and have no idea they're a sheep and continue to promote a lot of the stuff, most of which they get from mainstream media. But there's now a time where you can actually sit down and look into something. Like, if you don't know what's going on, it's nobody's fault but your own. Like, literally the whole world is in your pocket. Anything you want to know, anything you need to know, is right here. You could be having a discussion with someone, no matter who's wrong, you could pull out the phone and get the answer right here. And we're not utilizing that kind of information like we should. But in a political sense, information like Donald Trump and what he's doing, for example, gets out. He gets his word out before the media can even get their word out.
Okay.
Before they formulated an opinion, he's already on Twitter an hour before they even put any video out. They're still dealing with the stuff on the cutting room floor. He's already got the message out. And even if they bash it, he's always going to be quicker. And that's the same that happens with a lot of things politically right now. It's like social media has allowed information to travel very, very, very quickly. Depending on how you use it and depending on how you internalize it, you can really make some big differences. And that's even what's helped my campaign significantly. I mean, like, hey, look at this right now. You and I are hanging out. You're in I'm in New Jersey. You're where? California?
Well, I live in California, but I'm currently with family in Virginia.
Okay, good. So you're on the East Coast. Great.
East Coast, yes, sir.
I'm communicating with a guy on the other side of the country that would have never been possible, on a little plastic thing with the TV on it. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy stuff. This is what is going to change the world. This is what's going to change our ability to formulate our own opinions, And when I go out and I run, I tell a lot of people, like, I'm not a special guy. I just happen to speak very well, primarily because it's what I feel. The thing is, everyone believes, and I made a post about this earlier today on social media, where I said, the era of the suit and tie guy politician is done. People want the truth, not what you think you want them to hear. People like I see some of these politicians, and I know their hearts are in the right place. Some of them, right? Across the board, they'll come out and they'll talk, and rather than actually telling the truth, they walk a thin razor line that they don't want to offend either side, no matter the party, and they don't want to walk that touchy subject that they know everybody's thinking about, that everybody's talking about. They don't want to go down that realm,
right?
Because they have to keep this suit and tie guy impression, like I'm this politician and I have to, speak like this and be very elegant and all this nonsense. But the thing is, and I see these guys at speeches all the time. Like, whenever I go out in public, I watch some of them talking. I'm like, that was a pretty good speech. That was all right. But you get golf claps. People clap, yeah, woo, right? And then I get up there, and then I just go Hulk Hogan on the microphone. You know what I mean? Because, like, I'm dead serious. I mean this. I feel this. And I know all of you guys in here feel this. And everybody's going to be like, you know what? Excuse my French, but they're going to be like, fuck yeah. That guy, right? That's what because it's true. When I gave a speech in Parsippany not too long ago, it was a statement that I made that I said, I'm going to say something that's going to rub a lot of you guys the wrong way, but it's the truth. A lot of you Republicans are cowards. A lot of you are cowards. A lot of you are afraid to push the envelope. A lot of you are afraid to actually stand for what you believe in. You're afraid of losing your job or being labeled as a racist or having your information doxxed or whatever the case may be.
Canceled.
All these things are reasonable things to be afraid of, but if the other side is going to do that and you shut your mouth, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do it even more. So until you actually stand up and you stop acting like a coward, they're going to take the country away from us, And everybody resonated. At first, I could see the crowd. It was like, this guy just called me a coward. But they know it's true because a lot of them feel it. A lot of them know it. A lot of them want something to change, or else you wouldn't be in this park right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation, You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe it. But why are you doing it here in the rally and you're not doing it everywhere? You're not actually going hard. You have to go hard for your country, especially right now. You have to. It's not even up for debate at this point. And by saying that, people felt you got to hit them right here. People want to be hit right here. They can't connect with some of these politicians. They can't connect with some of these people because this guy's suit and tie. He came up here. He went to Ivy League school. He's got all the money in the bank. His uncle's a Wall Street guy. And then there's a guy like me. I don't know anything about this. Hierarchy. I don't fit in any of this nonsense. I don't want to fit in it. I just want what's right for my people. That's what I want. My people want better. They deserve better. They deserve somebody who's going to come in there and politically punch someone in the face and get things done for their people because everyone's afraid. What are you afraid of? And most of these guys running, speaking of punches in the face, most of these guys running have never been punched in the face. And when I'm talking punch in the face, I'm talking about dealing with real hardship. Real problems. A lot of these guys, like, a problem to them is like, oh, my email's not sending properly. Let me rant about it on Twitter or something stupid like that. A lot of these guys, because they don't have that kind of I don't know.
It's right
like
there.
that,
It's tip of your tongue.
it's like that. I guess swagger, for lack of a better word, swagger is not the word I want to use, but like they don't have that. You know what I mean? Like they don't have that synchronicity with the people.
Okay.
You know? And people see it, and I see it all the time. Like in the 9th district, they're constantly running a bunch of milquetoast candidates, right? This suit and tie guy from God knows where west, you know, and they run up against a guy like Bill Pascrell who's been here for eons. You know what I mean? You can't. It's not
before the internet.
You're right. Exactly. He absolutely was here before the internet. You know, you're gonna run these guys against him. The only person who did a really significant number on him was Dr. Hector Castillo in 2016. Now, Dr. won because you know he was out there like really, you know, just fighting. You know what I mean? And when I speak with the doctor, he's like, "Yo, bro, I got nothing to lose. Like, I'm a doctor. I already got money. Like, this ain't about the money. Like, I'm just gonna go out and beat this guy because who cares? Why not? He doesn't represent me." And that's what I love about Dr. Castillo, because it's like whether he won or not, it was about, I'm gonna punch this guy in the mouth politically. You know, I don't care. I got nothing to lose. You know?
Him up a bit. Yeah.
And seeing that, I'm like, you know, I like that. Like that's that, and that's why out of all the people from 2012 to 2018, he got the most amount of votes. So to put it into perspective, he got 65,000 votes, while Pascrell got about 160, I think it was. Here's how the numbers break down, all right? The Republicans will tell you that they can't win in the 9th district. Bill Pascrell's got it on lock. You know, it's a Democrat blue stronghold. That's just the way it is. And that's not true. That's not true. That's total BS. It's absolute BS. And let me tell you why. Because the Democrats, according to the numbers that I've seen, the Democrats have 202,000, I should say, plus registered Democrats. The Republican Party, on the other hand, has 69,362 registered Republicans. However, there's 179,000 plus unaffiliated voters that are sitting at home.
Independents,
the numbers break down even crazier. So from 2012 up until 2018, Basement Blue Bill over there, he gets the lowest amount he's ever gotten was 140,000 plus votes, right?
Okay.
The most he's ever gotten was 160,000. Remember what I told you, there's 202,000 registered Democrats. So that means about a quarter of the Democrats aren't coming out for this guy. 160,000 is the most he's ever gotten in 2016. A quarter of them are not coming out for this guy. In Dr. Castillo's case, 69,000 Republicans, he got 65,000 votes.
Okay.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That tells you that practically every single Republican will come out. And the lowest number that Republicans have ever gotten was 40,000. A guy named Fisher, right? So even in that case, 40,000 out of 69,000, practically every Republican will come out. Now, the independent voters, Green Party, all the other random stuff in between, they would get, or Libertarian Party, they would get a low turnout of about 1,300 something, right? The most that's ever come out for someone in the middle, unaffiliated, was 3,000. So keep this in mind now. A quarter of the Democrats didn't come out. Practically every single Republican came out. Literally none of the unaffiliated voters came out. So that means it's not even like a disparity where like some went and voted for Democrats, some voted for Republican. And even if some of them did, it wasn't significant enough to make much of a jump because the numbers are still low. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, no, it's not that the Republicans can't win. It's not that the Republicans can't get things done. The Republicans are not doing the work, and they're acting like a bunch of cowards because there's nobody going into the inner city and trying to flip the inner city. There's a bunch of crazy radical Democrats that are here. They're here all the time at all the food banks, doing all this stuff, taking care of the people in whatever sense they believe. And guess what happens? Nobody bites the hand that feeds them. And they're going to continue to go with these Democrats and their ridiculous policies, even if it works against their true interests. But they don't know any better because how could they? There's no Republican out there talking to them. There's no independent person out there talking about them. There's no other voice. It's just them. And because nobody's doing it, and I see the leadership that is in position all across the state, not just my district, they're in positions where they're like, in my opinion, I could be totally wrong, but from the way it looks, and I'm no fool, from the way it looks, you guys are in bed with them and you're allowing this to happen because there's some kind of deal that you have to have. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Because I'm no pollster, okay? I'm no expert CNN guy who does this all day with the math and graphs, right? I'm a regular guy. I spoke to you, and it's common sense when you look at the numbers. Like, you don't got to be a math genius to figure this out. So if I can figure this out, if you can figure this out, you mean to tell me the state GOP can't figure this out? That the Passaic County Republicans can't figure this out? Bergen County, Hudson, none of you guys can figure this out? That the reason why we're getting our asses kicked is because you're not talking to the unaffiliated? And the Democrats are so comfortable because they've got 202,000 votes. I mean, they've got 202,000 registered voters. That even at 160,000, the most they've ever gotten, they are not going to campaign. Why? They've already got it on lock. There's only 69,000 Republicans. Of course, they're not going to campaign hard. They don't have to campaign hard, especially when they're always running some bozo against them. And then you get a guy like Bill, who does not give a damn about the whole game. I don't care about any of this stuff. I'm here for the people. The people need to know why I'm here. I want the people to know why I'm here. I'm going to say the things that no one else will say. I'm going to call out the people that no one else will call out. I've got nothing to lose. Even in my own party, I can see people trying to sabotage me. They're like, this kid is growing way too quickly. He's learning way too fast. This whole campaign survived on about $5,000, right? From February up until the day before I was on the Tim Pool show. That week, just sharing my message with his show. People all across the country, tremendous support, tremendous love. I give him I got so much love for Tim and his team for having me on, because since then people started just donating for the sake of it. Just like, you know what, this guy, I'm all the way in New Mexico, man. I'm gonna send this guy like $400, you know, or what blew a lot of people's minds. And it kind of shocked me, because when I really thought about it, I was like, you know what, it's true. On the show, I was telling people, like, listen, I got my phone number on my website. Like, you know, if you want to speak to me, right?
People were text you while you were on the podcast. Yes, that was amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, I thought, like, you know, I didn't think that was, maybe I'm naive in this political game, but I didn't think that was a big deal. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're supposed to have your number. You're running for politics. You're like, people are supposed to. It just seems like common sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, and people were just like, in the comments, like, what? This guy really has, like, who the hell does that? Why would you put your personal number? And I'm like, because I'm a politician, like I'm supposed to, right? And then people are just sending like, even if I were to go through my phone right now, there's probably about like 400 text messages that unfortunately I haven't been able to get to.
Yeah,
you know,
you'll get there.
I make an effort to respond to every single text message, call every single number back, reach all the people, because that's important to me. If you support me, I want you to know that, yo, bro, you roll with me, I'm gonna fight for you, bro. And I like that. Yeah. I respect that. I try and reach out to every single person. Sometimes I just can't.
Yeah.
But when people call, and I pick up the phone, and they're like, hey, Bill, I'm gonna get this Bill. Oh my God, you really picked up the phone. I can't believe you're a real, you know what? I'm gonna send you $500. You are the real deal. And I'm like, it's so humbling, because I'm like, I didn't do anything crazy. You know, This is what a politician is supposed to do. And because someone on the other side of the country is willing to send me what someone makes in a whole week to help my campaign because they believe in me that much, that really says something. That means that the people are dying, they're starving, they're bleeding for someone to properly represent them and actually be accessible. If they can't be, if the politician can't be accessible, who is fighting for us? You know? And then it just clicked in my head that it's like, wow, just something as small as that. Like, a lot of stuff that I see in politics is common sense. A lot of this stuff is not complicated. You don't have to be a genius to be a politician. You don't need any of this high Harvard, Ivy League BS. You don't need any of that stuff. It's common sense. The people want this. Does it make sense to get it accomplished? And if it does, get it done. If it doesn't, how can we make something just as good to actually satisfy the people? That's it. They make politics seem extremely complicated and make it much bigger than it needs to be. Like, oh, we can't get it done because of the Democrats. Like, listen, I've never seen a politician ever in my life call out another politician. Like, straight up. If we know that this politician is trying to do something scumbag, right? They're probably like, oh, we can't get along with the Democrats and it's party lines or whatever. I've never said, hey, yo, Ilhan Omar, why on earth are you running our country right now? Why are you a congressperson? If you're talking about defunding the police, you want our states to burn down, why is anybody not trying to impeach you and get rid of you, right? They say, oh, let's respect the political. No. This isn't a time for playing fair now. If you're supposed to represent our people, and you're telling people to go and burn the system down, the system that gave you such a tremendous life, because we know that she'd be doing so well if she was still in Somalia, You are the one telling people to burn down this country and change our way of life, and you're not representing the true will of the people. And the whole entire country sees this, and nobody's calling her out. I see a few jabs here and there. I'd be in the Congress every single day, like, get rid of this woman. Get rid of her. And
I know Lacey Johnson's going after her, her opponent.
Right, and you know the funny thing is, the reason why a lot of people don't is they'll say something like, "Oh, I don't want to be labeled as a Islamophobe or a xenophobe or something," and that's not true. I know a lot of Muslims that don't agree with her. It's got nothing to do with that. People are afraid to be called some kind of thing, but the thing is, the truth is, a lot of people believe it. A lot of people believe what's going on. They just need somebody to go out there and just say, "Damn it!" Like, tell them what I want to say. You know,
like Billy say it on my behalf. I can't say it out loud. You say it for me.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the old guy up the block who has a problem with this thing and no one's talking about it. You know, and you need somebody that's your job. And if you don't agree with something as a politician or as a congressperson, I think that you should still sit down and meet with the people and try and find some kind of common ground. You may not have common ground on anything at all, but opening the door, opening the bridge, and actually having a dialogue about that is important. You know, because at the end of the day, what's more important than actually getting someone to agree with you is somebody respecting you. I may not agree with this guy, but I respect him. They actually took the time to have a conversation. They took the time to try and find some kind of common ground, even though we don't agree. But I respect the fact that you were willing to have that conversation. And a lot of politicians just don't want to do that. A lot of constituents, sadly, don't want to do that. Like, you go on Bill Pascrell's page, and some of these people are ultra sheeped out. They're just like, woo. I'd be like, "Oh, Bill Pascrell doesn't want to debate me," right? They'll be like, "Oh, why would he debate a Republican? We don't have to talk to Republicans." And I was like, "Oh, so the first time you got an African-American first-generation Republican running in Paterson, you don't want to hear from the black guy, but Black Lives Matter until he's Republican, right?" Crickets, no answers. They can't answer because they realize how ridiculous they sound. You're talking about how you're anti-racism, but now here's a black guy whose voice matters, right? My life matters, right? My opinion matters, right? Until I'm a Republican. So do Black lives really matter? Is that really what we're about, gentlemen? Is that really what we're about? You know, everyone's afraid to put people on the spot. You know, you start putting people on the spot, now people got to think. I'm a firm believer that, like, if somebody says something, if somebody makes a claim or a statement, you got to be able to back that up.
Right.
I don't believe in opinions. Opinions mean absolutely nothing, because if you can back it up, there's only two things that matter: facts and lies. That's it. An opinion, like, "Oh, I believe this. Can you back it up?" No, but it's what I believe. Then it's BS. It's cool. You can have your own opinion. Everyone should have their own opinion. But when you start trying to pass opinion as fact and use that as the basis for your arguments because it's what you want to believe, you've lost me. You've lost the argument. I don't follow a lot of these emotion-based arguments. You know, and that's what a lot of the people on the left come with. You know, what about the babies? What about the children? What about this? But then they don't even have logistical solutions as to how to resolve it. For example, they're talking, "Oh, Planned Parenthood, we can't get rid of a woman's reproductive rights, even though African Americans are killing their babies at staggering rates." You only find these places in the inner cities. You don't find enough programs of them actually helping single parents or teenage mothers or young women who are just trying to get by and live their lives and even try and work while taking care of a child. We don't have these programs that are giving them the safety net that they need so that they can choose life instead of choosing death. They're not being provided the resources to help educate themselves so they can make better decisions and prevent this from happening to the next generation. Instead, what they do tell you is, go to Planned Parenthood and kill your kid. It's progressive. It's the woman thing to do. You're a feminist. It's your right. Go on and kill that black baby. Go on and do it. We've got single parent households, fatherless households are like 80% right now here in the inner city communities. We've got a culture where we promote promiscuity and violence and drugs and a whole bunch of degenerate behavior. And this is the cool thing. If you don't support that, somehow you're not black. You see how they've brainwashed and conditioned? And then they tell you, go and kill your child because your child's not valuable. But they won't tell you that Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, or what became Planned Parenthood, is known to have gone around to numerous black churches, encouraging the pastors to tell their congregations that the most merciful thing that they can do for their child if they're in poverty is to kill the child. She's gone around advocating that the Negro and the Jews are weeds that need to be permanently eradicated from the face of the earth. And Planned Parenthood has given out every single year the Margaret Sanger Award to the people who killed the most babies, essentially, right? The most progressive, feminist, off the wall, murder factory leader. They've been giving this Margaret Sanger Award every single year. Look her up if you don't know. And this goes to the people that are watching. Look up Margaret Sanger if you don't know who Margaret Sanger is. I feed you no bullshit. This happened. And now in 2020, they stopped handing out this Margaret Sanger Award.
I read that. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because now, like, tons of Republicans, lots of conservatives, pro-life groups have been calling this out for years and years and years. Now they want to show up as progressive as, oh, we got to erase our past with Margaret Sanger before the black people wake up and they stop killing their kids, right? They don't want us to know this, but this is how they'll brainwash us. They'll tell us this is the cool thing to do. And I stand against a lot of this stuff. I try and find common ground with some of the people that are pro-choice, and right. A lot of their common ground makes no sense. They'll tell you that it's like, oh, but it's not a human. Then what is it? It's a fetus. And what's a fetus? It's a human, right? No, it's not. It's just a clump of cells. It's just a clump of cells, right? You believe in aliens? Yeah. You believe in aliens? Yeah, I believe in aliens. Oh, okay. You seen those videos of the Mars rover? Yeah, yeah. They found bacteria on there, right? What does that mean? What did they tell you, huh? What, you believe in life on Mars? Yeah. You believe bacteria is life on Mars? Yeah. But the clump of cells in a woman's belly are just a bunch of clump of cells. That's not life, but bacteria millions of miles away. And you don't even know if they're telling you the truth about that. Okay? You believe that because you're such a scientist. You're so smart. You understand so much. But the body, what becomes a human being, those clump of cells, that fetus, that thing that you say is void of life and has no life, that isn't life to you, but something millions of light years away, maybe even further than Mars. If they could just say, we found a drop, half of a drop of water crystallized in a rock 4 million miles beneath the crust. We found life. You'd believe that because you're so smart. But a baby's not life. A clump of cells ain't life. See how they condition the people?
Right.
Nobody's out here talking in this way because they're afraid to be labeled. I'm not afraid to be labeled, okay? Because facts are facts, whether you like them or not. If you don't like it, that's too bad. It's a fact. It's a fact. People are offended by facts today. It should be cool to be talking the facts. Instead, it's cool to push propaganda. It's cool to push ideas that aren't even realistic. Like, there's 72,045,000 different genders, and you could be any one of these genders at any given moment. You know, today I feel like a butterfly. Today I feel like I'm cisgendered. Today I feel like I'm a woman. Today I feel like this glass desk. And that's rational.
It took me a second there. I was like,
yeah, you see, you think about it, it's like, what? And if you say the wrong thing, you rub someone the wrong way, you're affecting my truth. Everyone wants their truth. They don't want the truth. And there's only one truth. No matter how you cut it, no matter what you want to believe, there's only one truth. Because at the end of the day, the reason why the United States is where it is right now is not just because of the economy and the war and all this stuff. All this stuff is happening, yeah, but it's because the United States has a problem with sin. And this is one thing that a lot of people don't want to admit. It's one thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about because everybody wants to be progressive. Do what you want, do what thou will. But there are reasons why our world is the way that it is. When you start to fall into degenerate behavior and you start to believe that this is the way forward and this is the cool thing to do, it's only a matter of time before your nation falls apart. Look what happened to Rome. The degeneracy and the decadence of what they had, the pure hedonism of the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire led to their own destructions. An empire that was built by strong men, you know, and strong men and women that wanted to do something great for their country, that created the pillars of democracy. Were they the best people in the world? No. Same with America. Were we the best people in the world? No. But we had an idea, we had a vision to move forward until weak people, weak-minded people, people that are easily influenced by negative spirits, by negative beliefs, get into our society and they try to dictate what the real world is. And when they have the larger platform, they tell you all these things that are cool. Like right now, Governor Newsom in California helped approve a bill that will protect pedophiles, essentially. If you have a 10-year difference between a child that you rape, because it's not consensual, it is rape. If you do this to any child who cannot think for themselves at this point, you do this to a child, that's rape. And you want to protect these pedophiles. And he said he puts it under the blanket of, oh, it's, you know, to help, you know, stop the discrimination between LGBT people. The LGBT people don't agree with this. They don't agree with pedophilia. I know a lot of gay people that are like, I knew they were going to try and do this. They were going to try and lump us in with these monsters that need to be put in prison, you know? And that's how they slowly start to pass these kinds of things. They make it acceptable. If a child is 13 years old and someone is, forget that. If a child is 10 years old, and the guy's 20 years old and he rapes that child, it's totally legal in California. And now you see California on fire. Is that a coincidence or is that the wrath of God? It's only a matter of time before something like this started happening. You know, we really need to wake up and turn our ways away from this nonsense. You know, America has the potential to be great. The world has the potential to be great, but that's only going to happen when we start speaking the truth. Whether people like it or not, the truth is the truth. And the sooner we accept the truth will set us all free, man.
Now, on that note, I know there's a mouthful. You want to take a sip of water really quick?
I need some water.
So I want to talk about your platform, because we did talk about who you're running against. So I want to know what your platform is specifically in running in Paterson.
So first off, Paterson is just one of the few cities in the 9th district. That's the city that I live in. But there's over 37 cities that make up the 9th district. So there's a lot of different things that I want to do. Main thing that I'm for is I want to fix our immigration system. I believe our immigration system is totally broken. It's been broken for a very, very long time. And I believe that before anything could even be done, we need to secure our southern border, because we can't fix our immigration system and streamline our process until we have security on all ends. What I believe is we need to hire more judges for the United States Immigration Service, so that they can help process a lot of the people that are coming in legally and the people that are here illegally, so we can make our process much more streamlined. There's no reason why we can't do this, but this needs to be done once our border is secure. We secure our border, we hire more judges. Now, the children who were brought here illegally, yeah, it's not their fault. You know, they didn't know what the hell was going on. Their parents brought them here when we were kids. Should we deport them and send them home because, you know, to a country that they know nothing about? I don't think so. No. And the Trump administration came up with a very good plan, and I agree with this plan. It's the same immigration stance that I have as well too. That if you were brought to this country illegally and you were a child and you've lived here for about 15, 16 plus years, then you can become an American citizen under one condition: you cannot sponsor anybody else into the United States. And I think that's totally fair. It's not your fault, kid, but your parents were not supposed to be here to begin with. It would be foolish and backwards for us to reward your parents for breaking the law, because let's not get it twisted. When you give something like that to a child, who are they going to bring in? The parents that brought them here illegally to begin with, right? You can't reward bad behavior. Okay, you, the child, it's not your fault. You deserve to be an American citizen. You should be an American citizen. And they'll say, well, but giving someone the right to not sponsor somebody is not making them a full citizen. I'm like, yes, it is, though. I mean, like, you came here illegally. At the end of the day, there's two choices. You can be completely kicked out of the country because your parents came in here illegally, and I don't agree with that, or you become an American citizen. You just cannot sponsor anybody. I think that's totally fair. It's a fair compromise. You know, you're an adult. You've lived in this country your entire life, but why would we reward you and allow for chain migration to continue? It has to stop somewhere. So secure the border, hire more judges, give some amnesty to these people, but do not allow them to sponsor anybody into the United States. Because there's people that want to come into this country legally, like my family. My family, about 14, 15 of us, counting myself, counting my mother, we all came to this country legally. We did it the right way, right? Thankfully, luckily, I, myself, my younger sister, and my older brother were born in this country, and we were able to reap the benefits. But I see what my parents had to go through and why it was important for them to come to this country and do things the right way. So to see someone who just says, oh, I'm in poverty, I'm going to hop the fence, that doesn't fly. And with someone like my mother, who's not political at all, she doesn't care about politics, doesn't follow politics, never voted in her life, she agrees with the president's immigration stance. Doesn't like him much for his character, but his immigration stance makes perfect sense. Why should she work all of her life and spend hundreds of thousands, probably close to about 350,000 over the course of 16 years, bringing 14 people to the United States the right way? Why would we allow anyone else to just skip the line? So there's that. Immigration is one of my biggest platforms. The second thing is the protecting the rights of the unborn. We went over that a little bit when we spoke about pro-life and getting rid of all that insanity going on with Planned Parenthood. Another thing is I am a big proponent on helping out the veterans, the homeless veterans. Okay. There aren't a lot of programs here to help a lot of the veterans that are struggling. There's a few programs here and there, you know, help you find an apartment, pay rent for the next 3 days or something. But here's a bunch of people who are already motivated, who've put their lives on the line for the United States to ensure that we have a better United States. And when some of these people come home, and it's one of the first few things that I noticed when I left the military, is that when some of these veterans come home, you come back with a different perspective of the world, especially if you've been in the military for quite some time. you operate under a different legal code, UCMJ, you live your life in a different way, and you do things and you're privy to things that the average citizen is not aware of. They don't have the courtesy or privilege of not knowing what is really going on or what could be going on in the world. So when a lot of these veterans leave the service and they come back home, it's easy to get caught up and fall into being disconnected. You know,
okay.
When I came home and I started talking to a lot of my friends and family, especially my cousins, who to this day I still don't speak with much anymore, and telling them about, you know, what happened under the Barack Obama administration and what he actually did and how he's affected this country.
Oh, pause right there. Pause right there. I'm gonna say a disclaimer for everybody. I heard that you specifically were a Democrat. You voted for Obama in 08,
yes.
right? And then
yes.
you became a Republican in 09. So it's disclaimer. I just wanted to let everyone know that's the mindset of where you're coming from. So
yes,
go on.
yes. So no, I actually became a Republican in 2010.
10, okay.
2009 is when I kind of like had the idea where my friend Dan Avery and Rich Easton, they came, sat down with me, started speaking with me about Ron Paul and republicanism. So it was always in the back of my mind, but it wasn't until 2010 that I actually decided to, you know, register as a Republican instead of, you know, a Democrat. But you know, Barack Obama comes in, and I lost my train of thought. Where were we before this? Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. No, you're talking about well, you were starting along the lines of what Obama did.
Starting along the lines of what Obama did.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. There we go. Yes. So, like I was saying is, when I was in, you know, I had this idea of what was going on, and a lot of my friends and family and most of my cousins were, rather than them understanding where I was coming from, because I was actually in the military, it was just easier for them to call me crazy and call me insane. How do you not support the first black president? This is after they all knew I was gung-ho about the first black president. And I tell them about what happened in Libya and how we destroyed that country and how he expanded the drone war. And he killed millions of innocent children, and he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize just because he was a brown guy. Because he was brown, everybody suspended disbelief and just kind of, you know, had total cognitive dissonance because, hey, you know, first black guy, we're gonna let this guy roll. And when I speak with people about this, they would call me crazy. And I can only imagine the people that actually went to combat and went through things and lost friends and the amount of pressure that gets to you, you know, knowing that you wanted to fight for your country and seeing that it's all been for a lie. You come back into society and it's kind of hard to reconnect. It's kind of hard to share the same or relate with a lot of the people that just don't know. And these are people who worked and put their lives up for the country. Who more dedicated than them to help us rebuild our country, protect our country? Even schools, for example, a lot of people say that like, oh, there shouldn't be any guns in schools, right? I was like, okay, well, if there's not any guns in schools, then I believe we should at least train the veterans to act as security guards to protect our schools. We protect our federal buildings, our government buildings, our banks. We protect them with guns, but when it comes to our children, the most valuable asset of our entire country, the future, our next generation, we don't protect them. We instead have signs all over the place, gun-free zones, where these kids are left to basically fend for themselves. Veterans play a very critical role. I believe that some of them should be retrained into the vocational programs and teach them high-paying careers. There's a lot, like for example, I was a mechanic in the military. I don't see any programs out here that are specifically targeted at hiring people who are military trained in mechanics or in any of these specific fields. Okay. I believe that a lot of these programs should be created, and I would like to create a coalition of businesses that would like to help with this program, helping with retraining them, getting them back into society, helping veterans with PTSD, get their life back on the right track. Because the second someone feels like they offer nothing to society, they carry themselves like they're nothing to society. And we forget about them. It's easy to forget about them. But when someone takes pride in something that they do, especially when it gives back to the community, they're paid well, you feel pride in what you've done. You feel pride in knowing that it's like, hey, I actually matter. You know, just like how while I was in the military, I actually mattered. I was doing something for my country. You know, I want to restore that pride and restore that passion back into our veterans' lives. And I want a lot of businesses to help me with that. And to transition into that vocational program, that brings me to school choice, which is another thing that I'm a very firm proponent of. The NJEA, the New Jersey Education Administration, is hands down my biggest enemy for sure. And I thought it would be the police, but they're not. The police are actually one of my biggest supporters. But the education system is designed in a way where, for example, in Paterson, New Jersey, the annual budget, well, the budget for last year, based on last year's numbers, was $636 million, right? To train every student would cost about $28,000 a year. Why is it that in private schools and charter schools, where they're getting better education, better scores, and they're learning much faster than they are in public schools, why is it that in a charter or a private school, it costs about $14,000 a year? Yet we're paying $28,000 to dumb down our children. You know, they're not learning the information that they need to learn. Why is it that in high school, for example, we could spend almost an entire year learning about calculus, a skill that 98% of all Americans will never, ever, ever, ever use, but that is put at the forefront. Why don't we have 2 semesters just teaching children about financial literacy, how interest works, how investment works, how the money in your pocket works, you know, how to set up for retirements, how to file your taxes, how to balance your credits? Why? These are things that actually matter, things that you will absolutely deal with the second you walk out of those doors as an 18 or 17-year-old. The second you get your first job, you're gonna get smacked in the face with taxes. You're gonna have to make these decisions as you grow up. And you know why? They don't want anybody to know this, because they need a bunch of dumb, uneducated cogs that will just follow on and be a part of the machine. So
I remember my first paycheck, I spent it all thinking, oh, like, this is mine. And then, oh, shoot, taxes.
Yeah, no. You know, they want people, they got this pipeline where people will leave high school, go right into college and get like a $70,000 degree for social justice and, you know, gender studies or something completely useless, you know, and by the time they get out, they still have no clue what to do with their lives. So here's how you resolve that problem. You see, I realized that there's 3 parts to this. There's the people, the parents, and the unions, right? And I would put unions and teachers in the same category, even though most of them don't agree with the union. They're kind of just forced, you know, practically at political gunpoint. Do it or you lose your job, right? So anyway, I can't piss off the unions, because the unions are the teachers. They're the ones that want job security. They want to be able to continue to do what they do. I can't piss off the parents, because they want their kids to have a good education, right? So here's the solution here. The solution that I've got to school choice is, there's lots of businesses that need help. There's a lot of industries that need rebuilding, especially now that our country's practically on fire, right? Why is it that we don't have any of these professionals in our schools teaching children the skills that they know? Because if I wanted to teach someone mechanics, for example, I know that the schools don't have the infrastructure to teach mechanics. However, you know who does? The business owner. What if I come to the business owner and say, hey, listen, I'll give you a tax break of, I don't know, $8,000 a year or something, right? And this is just tentative. Let's say I'll give you $8,000 off a year if you dedicate 2 days a month to go to the high schools and teach the children how to do what you do. That's 2 times a month. Multiply that by 4 years. That's a lot of hours of education. By the time you walk out of school, you're an apprentice. And this is just mechanics. This could be the same thing can be done for economics. The same thing can be done to teach people how to prepare taxes, for example. The same thing can be done for any industry. You think about it, right? Any industry that wants to partake in this. If something like this is being done in our local community, the schools don't need to build the infrastructure. They don't need to deal with that. The business owner gets a tax break, so they're like, hell yeah. The student learns more skills, because by the time they get out of high school, they have 2 choices now. Well, 3 choices, actually. They can either go to college, they can work as an apprentice in one of these industries for somebody else, or they can get together with all their homies and start their own business. That's 3 choices that they didn't have. And on top of that, now they're learning how to actually properly manage their books and learn their credit so that they can actually make the appropriate moves together. They didn't have this. They don't have this. How can this piss off the unions? How can this piss off the teachers? I don't want your job. I don't want to fire you. I don't want to upend the public school system. I believe in charter schools and private schools, yes, but I don't want to replace you with them. I want you to be able to be competitive with them, because you're not. You're not. You guys are fighting school choice, and you want to shut school choice down, because if the parents leave and they go to these schools, the public loses their funding, they lose their money, so you're going to fight against it. So I'm not going to fight against it. I want you guys to stay. But then there needs to also be a condition here. I believe that the tenure system needs to be removed. There's no reason why, oh, I've been a teacher for 20 years, so I'm practically guaranteed payment for life, and the unions will protect that. Like, that is ridiculous. You know how many teachers I saw in high school who would straight up say, like, you know what? These kids want to be bad. They want to fight. I don't care. I'm already tenured. They'll just sit down and read comic books. You know what I mean? This is a system that we shouldn't have in place. It's the one thing they're probably going to give me a lot of flack for. But at the end of the day, giving the students an opportunity to learn while they're teaching themselves, giving the business owner a new stream of young, motivated, and educated apprentices to go and fill these new careers and actually create these new industries. Imagine where our neighborhood like Paterson will look in about 10 years. A lot of these abandoned houses won't be here because, think about it. Yeah, like imagine like 9, 18-year-old kids, right? They all know how to fix, you know, they all know how to work as craftsmen. They all went to school and went through the same wood shop class together, for example, right? They all know. And they see the burnt down bando on the corner. Yo, how much do they want for that house? They want X amount of dollars. What if all 9 of us put our money together and buy that house? And we all make money, dude. It'll be so awesome. Just imagine that. That's just one example. Multiply that across the entire country. It's only a matter of time before the country repairs itself. It has to. Like, you have the education now. Like, giving handouts and Section 8 and all this stuff is not going to fix the situation. Resources and education is what's going to fix it. Because when you have the education, that's when you start getting creative. When you start getting creative, you start to create solutions. When you create solutions, everyone's life gets better. Everybody wins. So that's my solution with school choice. Another thing that I believe in is police reform, which I initially thought that this was going to get the most flack from a lot of the police. I thought the police would be totally against this, but almost all the police officers that I've spoken with, they're actually very much in favor for police reform. Because think of it like this. The best way to explain it is this. Imagine you're a police officer, you're on the force, and you know Officer McGee over here is a total scumbag. He goes around selling drugs, he shakes people down, he just through and through total douchebag, racist, Heil, whatever, scumbag, right? Absolute terrible person. But you joined the police department because you want to do what's right for your community. You want to protect your people, you want to protect the environment, and you believe in law and order. You want to do the right thing. You also don't like Officer McGee. Nobody likes Officer McGee. But remember, we're all a part of the union. And it's in the union's best interest to make the police officers look as good as possible under all circumstances, because why would they make them look bad? They get their federal and state funding from the state. They want to ensure that the police officers are well taken care of. They're getting their payments met, they're getting their pensions taken care of, all that stuff. That's the job of the union. The union exists because police officers pay a portion of their money to the union. It's in the union's best interest. Keep this in the back of your mind. It's in the union's best interest to keep the police department looking as good as possible. So if Officer McGee shot someone in the face, it's the job of the union to look as good as possible. Does that mean they're going to do the right thing and throw their guy under the bus? There's a high possibility it's not going to happen. You, the good officer, that knows Officer McGee's a scumbag, is it possible for you to throw him under the bus? Yes. But according to several of the police officers that I've spoken with, I would ask them the same question. Why doesn't anybody do this? And the answer has roughly gone like this: because there can be serious ramifications. That's a very generic answer that has numerous applications. What do you mean? Physical ramifications, financial, political? Is your family at risk? You don't know. But they've all answered the same. Because when you're dealing with an organization that's got a lot of money and it's got everybody backing them, and you stand against them, even for the scumbag, and they have to look as good as possible under all circumstances, you are now a threat to the machine. So that can go either way. So I think about that and I say, okay, so the problem here is not racist police officers, because you look at the numbers and they're killing everybody across the board. I shouldn't even say they, that's a terrible blanket statement. A lot of these bad cops that are doing that have been involved in police brutality situations, I want to specify that.
Okay.
A lot of these police officers that have done that, they're doing that to people all across the board. It's not like, hey, let's just go and get a bunch of black people because of racist. No, that's not true. You know, they're doing that to white guys, black guys, Asian guys, all across the board, right? So if that's what's going on, and they're doing this to people, it's not necessarily a racial problem. It's an abuse of power problem. And when that abuse of power is protected, you'll continue to get more abuse of power. You know, I'll give you an example. In Paterson, a gentleman named Jameek Lowry, he went to the local police department. He was on a live stream. Some of the news reports I've seen said that he was on drugs, but he was on a live stream. Him being on drugs is besides the point in the larger scheme of the story here, because this guy is on the live stream asking the police officers for water. He can't breathe. He's paranoid, and all kinds of stuff's going on, right? Long story short, they call an ambulance for him and take him to St. Joseph's Hospital. The following day, when family gets to see him and the news actually comes out about what happened to him, his face is swollen shut and he's dead. The report says he was restrained at some point. How was he restrained? The Internal Affairs, they do their investigation. No wrongdoing. So let's play devil's advocate, right?
Okay.
Let's say the police, and I'm not accusing the police of anything, nor am I saying that they didn't do anything, because we don't have all the facts. Okay, let's just be real here. Let's say the police are telling the absolute truth. They didn't do that to that man at all. Let's say they didn't do that. No matter what, the people are still going to believe that they did that. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they're still going to believe that they did that is because this was an internal investigation. The person or the group that people believe did this to him are also the people that are investigating themselves to tell you that, oh, no, nothing happened. Remember, it's in the interest of the union to make the police look as good as possible. How can we trust that? Knowing that everybody knows this, right? If the police are watching us, who watches the police? We don't have an outside body other than maybe the sheriffs. But even sheriffs can be compromised. They can be compromised politically. You know, you're a fool if you believe that, oh, we can just elect the sheriff and it's all good. Yeah, sure, you can elect that sheriff, but he can be compromised. There's some sheriffs that have been in office for a very, very long time who stand in stark contrast to what the people actually want. And they're just here playing the political game like everyone else. So we can't 100% count on sheriffs. And the reason why I know this is because sheriffs told me this, that this is what's going on in the police department.
Okay.
Right? The police department wants to do certain things, but we can't because we're controlled by the sheriff and what the sheriff allows us to do. Sheriff also just happens to be a Democrat. Democrats have been in control of the sheriff's office for a very long time. So that's another fun fact, right? So guess whose team they're on? So can't really count on that. So what I believe needs to happen to resolve this problem is a new elected official needs to be created. Let's call him the community justice officer, for example, right? In your city, we believe that we don't have anybody to hold our police departments accountable. So we, the people, choose Erman Baradi to represent us, right? You are the guy who we're going to go to and they say, hey, you know, Jimmy got beat up by a police officer. You know, we need justice, bro. Go and look into it. So Erman's going to go to this police department or the state or whoever may be involved in the situation and do his own investigation along with his team. The police have to cooperate with you and your team because you are a representative of the people, okay? Just like how a sheriff has the ability to do that, the people, this is the people's guy, not the police's guy. And the sheriff is their own independent party too, don't get me wrong, but we're kidding ourselves if we believe that they're not working with the police as well. They are. The people deserve representation themselves. That's all their own. Is that not fair? I believe that's fair. So the people, we've got our guy, we sent Erman, go in there, you do your investigation. Now they stonewall you. They make it difficult for you to get information, or what's happened is way above what you can handle or what you can understand. That brings in the next part, the Justice Department, the Department of Justice. I'm calling for a national police force that needs to be created underneath the Department of Justice. Let's call these guys the justice officers. The reason why it has to come from the federal government is because they have no allegiance to municipal police or sheriffs. They have no allegiance to the state police. We're the Department of Justice. We're the federal government. Our job is to look into you. If you're doing scumbag stuff and we find out, we're going to hold you accountable and we're going to punish you severely. As a police officer, your job is to uphold the law. Nobody should be punished more for violating the law than the guy who's supposed to uphold it in the first place. You agree? Yeah. So you screw up and we catch you, you go down. Now, it gets more complicated. If you, as a police chief, for example, or union representative, protect the scumbag, and we find out that you're protecting the scumbag, guess who goes down too? You. You see? I think that's totally fair. So now it forces the hand of the unions. I don't care if you guys want to do the thin blue line that people say, or the veil of silence, or you don't want to throw anybody under the bus, you don't want to snitch. That's totally fine. And I agree, and I believe it should stay that way if you don't want to snitch or lie or do any of that. But the second the Department of Justice finds out, you're all going down. You're all going down. So remember, it's in the union's best interest to make the police officers look as good as possible. So it is you in the union, it is in your best interest to get rid of the scumbag to make the union and the police department look as good as possible. Because if you protect that guy, everyone's going down. It doesn't make any sense. You got to get rid of the guy. So the second you start to put that kind of pressure on not just the police and the unions, they hold the police officers to a higher standard in the same way that we hold the police officers to a higher standard, as they should be, right? Another thing that I believe would make our policing much better is I believe police officers should be incentivized to learn extracurricular information that will only make them a better police officer. For example, you go to your police academy, they teach you CPR, basic hand-to-hand, a couple of things like that that you're most likely going to use on the field, right? But let's say you say, you know what, I'm going to go out of my own pocket to go and learn Krav Maga or gun disarms or, defensive driving crisis drills or things like this. And you actually pay for this. I believe that the state should compensate police officers that are going above and beyond to learn that kind of stuff. Like, hey, here's a bonus of $1,500. You wanted to go and learn how to do this and you did that. It's only going to make you a better officer. Why not give that guy money for that? Don't you want good officers, right? Why not? I think that's fair. Second thing I believe in is there needs to be a standard, right? And I know certain states have different, rules of engagement and different things, but there needs to be a national standard for a lot of the police officers, right? That can adhere to all states, I should say, of training, right? That you as a police officer have to go through this, okay? Not once, not twice, but every year or every 2 years to recertify. A doctor can't come up to you and cut open your heart and he only went to school in 1989 and didn't recertify, right? That doctor has to constantly stay sharp, always.
New technology, new skills, yeah.
Correct. They have to constantly learn new things. They have to constantly recertify or else he can't cut you open. It's malpractice, right? Why is that happening with police where you go to school, you get out, and now it's just all on the field, right? There has to be a standard. If you are a police officer, that's a complicated job. I compare it to doctor because you're doing complicated stuff. You're dealing with mental health situations, hostage situations, shooting drills, talking someone off the fence who's suicidal. There's so many different things where a police officer is just a go-to person to handle all these things, right? So there should be a set standard of skills that you have to recertify for every year, every single year, depending on the severity of what needs to be learned, before you can get a license to be a police officer. Before you can carry your badge, you have to go through these programs. And here's a second reason why. Because if you get involved in a situation as a police officer where it's like, yo, this guy, Jimmy, is off his meds and he's suicidal in the middle of the street and he's, running towards you unarmed, for example, right? You can hit him with the baton, shoot him in the leg. Well, maybe not shoot him in the leg, but, probably tase the guy, call for backup. There's all different kinds of things you can do, right? And you've gone through all the training on how to handle someone who's off their meds, right? You've gone through this, you've recertified through this, and you mess up. This protects the union at this point because now it's like, listen, you went through these trainings, you went through these drills, you know exactly how to handle this, and you handled this in the wrong way. How can I, in the police department or in the union, be able to protect you when it's on record that you went through this and you still acted inappropriately? We have to wash our hands. We have to. We got to get rid of you. The union has to protect itself. The police has to protect itself. And we need to show the people that we're serious about keeping the best of the best on our force, right? So this doesn't attack. So when I come up with a lot of these solutions, I realize that it's like, I can't get everything through from the unions, right? Teachers unions, police unions, any of these unions, I can't. But I have to make solutions that benefit both sides, right? Because I understand, there's a reason why you exist. There's a reason why the people have their beliefs. So if we can meet in the middle, all across the board, I believe all of us can move forward. And I believe this is why a lot of police officers actually support at least my idea of police reform. Because when people talk about police reform, they're talking about, defunding and shifting resources to do other stuff. And they're doing all these things that are actually, at the end of the day, hurt the effectiveness of the police department or hurt the effectiveness of, or actually hurt the safety of the communities. So rather than doing that, I believe let's find something that everybody can agree upon, right? And this is my solution here. And they all agree with it. For the most part, they agree with it. So, so I just want to answer one thing. I know you didn't ask, but it's one of the questions that people get from me a lot. They say, well, why the federal government? Why would you want the federal government to get involved in local and state affairs? I mean, isn't that like an overreach of government power? And I'm like, yes, it is. But the FBI itself gets involved in things like this that happen. When George Floyd died and the protests started happening, who started investigating it? The FBI. Why? Because it's outside of the scope of the local police department. Why? Because it's burning down. Right? So when a situation gets so big to the point that the localities can't handle it, the federal government gets involved. They have to. They have to. It's just that in this case, we have a bunch of, we need an office that their whole job is to go out and look for the people who are doing the wrong thing. In the Air Force, for example, they had a group called OSI, Operation Special Investigations. They were like the FBI for the Air Force. They're all on the same team. They're not here to try and harm the airmen, but we're looking for the scumbags, the ones who are selling drugs, the ones who are stealing weapons and selling them to scumbags on the internet. Their whole job was to police the airmen, right? So if we have things like that in the military, why don't we have something like that that's going on in police departments? The local IA or the police department's investigative affairs unit is not enough. It needs to be transparent. And the reason why it needs to be transparent is because people's lives are at stake here. The police officers' lives and the people of the community's lives are at stake. So this is information that needs to be public. And it's going to need somebody who has no allegiance to the state. Because people were asking, well, what if the local official that you elect gets corrupted? That's exactly why the federal government gets involved. Because if we hire Erman, and Erman, you get paid off by the unions and you start acting like a scumbag, right? And the people can't trust in you, but now we get the DOJ involved and we find out that you're messing up, guess who goes down? You. Because they have no allegiance to you. It's going to be some guy in Montana or something. You give him the facts and he's like, okay, I don't care what's going on in Paterson. I don't know what's going on. All I heard is these officers are doing this. All I'm here to do is look at the facts. And the facts show you're a scumbag. You're going down. I have no allegiance to you. We're not friends, okay? No hard feelings. I'm a cop too, but we're not friends. You know, you can't pay me off. I don't know you. I don't care about you. All right. So when you create a system like that where there's no incentive, the police start policing themselves. And when the police start policing themselves, just like how our communities and our cities will get better when children have the appropriate education, our police officers will get even better because they have a consistent and rigid education schedule. Not just that, but they're also holding each other accountable. And there's someone actually watching them other than the IA themselves. It's in their best interest to do the right thing because you're met with only 3 options now. You do the right thing, you quit, or you get caught. There's only 3 options. You give it about 10 years, I promise you, a lot of these situations that we see across the board with police brutality, violence, and what people call racism are not going to, I wouldn't say that they're not going to exist, but they'd be extremely, extremely, extremely minimized in comparison to what we have today. So yeah, police
there you go. Yo, we can talk all day. So I'm gonna keep going because I know we have a lot to say. I have a lot of questions more to go, and we already hit almost at the 90-minute mark. But I have so many questions for you. So let's just keep on rocking, okay?
Okay.
So here's something I'm gonna ask you that might be controversial, but let's go there. So obviously you're black, you're Republican, you're a black Republican. So there's like triple whammy of hatred right there. Like I'm sure you felt it from all angles growing up, right?
Yeah.
So let me reframe this question in a certain way because it's going to be like a long question, but I'm going to give you 10 minutes of the clock to answer it, right?
Okay.
So like I said, you're black, you're Republican, you're black Republican. So there can be a lot of people telling you certain things or calling you certain names because of your beliefs in addition to your color, right? Of course, like a lot of black conservatives are shut down nowadays. Even like a lot of them on Twitter are being shut down. Like literally as we speak, it's happening. So from the right perspective, from those on the right, they see the left as they control media, they control Hollywood, they control social media, they control whatever's mainstream, right? They control thought, right? They control education, they control the universities, right? So the right can say that the liberals have control of, I guess, the scope of how people see the world, right? From a default setting, right? From a default setting, we wake up, we hop on social media, we hop on TV, we hop on CNN. From a default setting, we're looking at things through a lens of the left, right? So we have people on the right who are like, well, I'm going to lift the veil and see things a different way. And by speaking out, automatically, people like you can be shut down, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying it's probably going to happen at some point. You know, people are going to hate because of your views don't match theirs. So, I mean, you can even talk to anyone nowadays and say, like, the way that the left is going restaurant to restaurant, acting, using fascist or mob tactics, they're doing that while calling people on the right fascists, you know? So, you know what I mean? So, so I know people have talked about that. People have called that out. So, for you, if I was to give you 10 minutes on the clock to say whatever you want when it comes to whether it comes to Donald Trump the way that the media has portrayed him, whether it comes to how the news portrays Republicans. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes on the clock, and it's just gonna be you on the screen. I'm gonna give 10 minutes to red pill. Well, if you want,
Oh yeah.
But and there's a reason why. There's a reason I'm gonna ask you this question, because it has to do with my follow-up question.
Okay.
So if I can give 10 minutes on the clock to red pill people, and I'm not talking conspiracy theories. I'm talking facts.
I got you right now.
Like what is it that the left is doing wrong that people are blinded by, right? So I'm gonna put you. It's just gonna be speaker view. It's gonna be just you. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes.
All right. So, so first off, when you said red pill people, we're gonna red bill people. This is why I tell people take the red bill. There's two of us: blue bill, Pascal, red bill, Prempeh, right? And I tell people all the time, I actually get met with a much different response to people who see and find out that I'm a Republican than what a lot of people believe, because I met with only two things, especially in the inner city minority community. It's one, why are you a Republican? Or I like your ideas, I respect your ideas, I just don't like Republicans. Or, I can't support the president, but, do what you do. You want to be a Republican, whatever. I just really don't care. Those are the responses I've gotten from a lot of people, believe it or not. The only people who've given me nonsense and called me names, N-word, Uncle Tom, all this other stuff, are the liberals. It's usually white suburban liberals from, Piscataway or something, Parsippany, some random, ultra upper crust area, upper Saddle River or something, telling me that I should be ashamed of myself, that I hate my own kind, that I'm an Uncle Tom, that I'm all these terrible, terrible things, and telling me that I'm the wrong one, but I should support their belief. I should support their organization. I should support the Democrat Party. When the truth is, the Democrat Party, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that the Democrat Party has done absolutely nothing for the African American community. Every single piece of policy that they put forth has actually harmed the African American community. It's always harmed them, from Section 8 to welfare, food stamps, all that stuff, all the way up until now. It's done nothing but keep us in a position of impoverishment, and it's kept us in a negative situation. What a lot of people don't understand, and what a lot of people forget, is that the African Americans, when they were getting a stronghold in politics here, they were all Republicans. They all started out as Republicans. It wasn't until Social Security benefits became a thing and the Democrats were pushing this that, this is the time the economy is really bad. A lot of people started to vote Democrat reluctantly. A lot of people don't know that the first 28 African American congressmen from the years of 1826 to 1828 were all African American. They were all of them, all the Republicans. All the African American congressmen, those 28, that time were all Republican. None of them were Democrat. The Democrats were going around lynching people. They were killing people. The Democrat Party plays a pivotal role in the founding of the KKK. The Democrat Party plays a pivotal role in the expansion and the growth of Planned Parenthood that I went through earlier today with Margaret Sanger and her organization. The Democrat Party were responsible for segregation, the busing of children. They didn't want African Americans going to school with their kids. They were the ones who were responsible. They were the ones who did not want the military to integrate and have blacks and whites working side by side with one another. There was the Democrats who burned down Black Wall Street. It was the Democrats who done all these things that we've got right now. The Democrats have done the Trail of Tears. They're the ones who marched down the southern East Coast and collected all the Native American tribes and forced them into reservations in the western part of the world, western part of the state, where they still are to this day. It was the Democrats who did this Trail of Tears here, right? The Democrats have always had a Trail of Tears, for lack of a better word. Everywhere that they go, everywhere that they leave, they speak about progressivism. They speak about how they're here for the people, when in reality, they're always going against the true will of the people, right? They believe that Jim Crow and segregation, and don't get it twisted, it was the Democrats who supported this, that wanted this, that proposed this, that made this into a reality. It was the Democrats who did this. And people quickly forget that there were lots of Republicans that fought and died to not just free the slaves, but to also push for the advancement of African Americans. There were more in fact, practically every African American was a Republican. There's images, and I think I posted on my Instagram. I keep forgetting to do that. There's images of newspaper clippings from an election during the 1820s, where it was a very pivotal election. And the way that they portrayed their platform was, vote the Democrat Party, the white man's platform. Don't Vote Republican, the Negro Carpetbagger program. They would have a caricature of African Americans with big lips and looking really ridiculous. You know, this was a stance that they've always had. They never wanted integration. We got guys like Joe Biden, for example, who has a very tainted history. People quickly forget because he has a D in front of his name, and because he happened to be the vice president for a black dude. A black dude didn't do much for the African American community, by the way. But we got Joe Biden, who is on record, on video, saying numerous racist things. Doesn't want the schools to integrate because it'll turn the schools into a racial jungle. He found the 1994 crime bill and made this into a reality. The 94 crime bill is one of the main reasons why there's so many African Americans and minorities are incarcerated today for victimless offenses, such as having a bag of marijuana. And speaking of a bag of marijuana, the president hopeful, or wants to be the president, Joe Biden, thought that it was a good idea to say on national television that he wants specifically an African American woman to be his running mate. If anybody did this in any other position and they weren't a Democrat, they would be called a racist, and rightfully so. They would be called a sexist, and rightfully so. To try and tell the world that I need to specifically choose someone who's black and a female, if you cannot see the pander play, I don't know what to tell you. They're clearly pandering to you. And then to make matters worse, they think you're so stupid that they're going to choose the most anti-minority person to put in there, Kamala Harris. Because don't forget, when she swore in as a senator, she wasn't black. She was Indian, the first Indian female to run and win in the Senate. That's how she portrayed herself. Now suddenly she's black. Now suddenly she's all about black rights. She is over here telling people about how she used to listen to Tupac and smoke marijuana back in the 1980s. Tupac wasn't rapping in the 1980s. So that's a lie. The African American community knows it's a lie. They know that you're trying to pander here. Not just that, you're talking about how cool it is for you to smoke, and you're laughing about this, but you would lock up somebody who looks like me for having a bag with just a couple of crumbs in it. And you made this was your thing. This was your policy. And guess who Joe Biden chooses as their vice president? Kamala Harris. They really think the African American community, the minority community, Hispanic community, they really believe we're a monolith. That, oh, if I choose someone who looks like me and they just happen to be a female, the more progressive, the more SJW they can make the candidate, somehow that's going to equal votes, you know? To the point where they get so bold, Joe Biden get on Charlemagne's show and say, you know, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. You're as pale as can be. You're paler than the walls behind me. And you're telling me that I'm not black because I don't want to vote for you because of your crime bill and what you did to the African American community and locking so many people up. And then on top of it, you choose someone like Kamala Harris, but I'm not black because I don't vote for you. I don't vote for my own oppression. You are the reason why the country is the way that it is. You guys blame everything on the president. You blame it all on Donald Trump. This also includes Basement Blue Bill that I'm running against in the 9th district. They blame all their problems on a man who's been here for less than, what, 3 years, 3.5 years now, almost 4, the president. You blame all your problems on this guy. Biden, you've been here for 40-something years. And you're still clinging onto the coattails of Barack Obama. You can see the way Barack Obama carries himself when he talks about Joe Biden. Talks about him like he's the weird uncle. You know, the guy in the back, like, yeah, don't worry about him. He's just a weirdo. That's the way he carries himself. And he believes that, oh, because I was the vice president for a black dude, I should be the guy. The entire time that Barack Obama was in office, he did nothing for the African American community. He did something for the gay rights. He did something to allow gay people to get married. What did he do for the minority community? Can't find anything. In fact, he thought it was a good idea to go and utilize NATO to go into Libya and bomb the closest country to a first world state in Africa, Libya. Was Libya perfect? No. Was Gaddafi a good guy? No, not all the time. But we can go and get the first black president to go into the country with some of the most prosperity in Africa, Libya, and destroy it. Destroy it, because Gaddafi was trying to create a gold dinar, a universal currency. Africa's well known to have lots of gold, but why are we borrowing from the IMF and the World Bank when we can utilize our own gold, create our own central bank backed in gold, not a fiat system, and unify Africa to create like a United States of Africa, essentially? And guess what we did? We sent Barack Obama, the first black president who's supposedly from Kenya, to go into Africa and destroy that entire country. And it left a power vacuum that allowed ISIS to grow, collect a lot of oil in that area, funnel that oil through Syria, through Turkey, our allies, and create the Islamic State. Do you believe any president, anyone, Bush, Clinton, Bush Sr., You know, Al Gore, for Christ's sakes, the humanitarian that everybody loves. Do you believe any of these white presidents, and I'm not trying to play the race card here, but do you believe that, even Trump, do you believe any of these white presidents would have been able to go into Africa and do something like that and get away with it? Because right now there's open air slave markets where they're going around kidnapping people in Algeria, Morocco, Nigeria, Ghana, my parents' country, and they're selling them off into slavery. Slavery now is at an all-time high. There are more slaves on the planet right now than there are at any other point in history. And a lot of this stuff would have never happened if we weren't going and attacking Libya or even giving rise to ISIS and creating all this Islamic radicalism in the Middle East, to the point that even Muslims themselves are terrified. They're getting, well, thank God we got our president got rid of most of these guys, but you know, a lot of Muslims were being beheaded, you know, for standing against the Islamic State, as well as Christians were being beheaded for standing against the Islamic State. And what did we do? We propped them up. On both sides, nobody wanted ISIS, whether you were Muslim, Christian, or not. Nobody wanted them there. But we propped them up as the moderate rebels. We gave the money to the moderate rebels, and they wreaked out havoc in the Middle East. And that would have never happened if it wasn't for Barack Obama. He was one of the main reasons that got me to wake up and red pill and realize that I was on the wrong side of history. It got me to really start looking into the policies of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party and seeing the complete differences. People ask, well, what does the Republican Party do for me? You know, the Democrat Party does this, and this. What does the Republican Party do for you? And my answer, absolutely nothing. The Republican Party does absolutely nothing for me. You know why? They're not supposed to. The party is not, well, not even the party, the government itself is not supposed to give you handouts, okay? The Republican Party stands for freedom, they stand for justice, and when by freedom, that means you have the freedom to do whatever you want within reason, that you do not harm anybody, right? And we give you that ability to do that, and we uphold our Constitution to allow you to live that kind of life and do these kinds of things. That's the only role of government. When you have a government that starts handing you and giving you everything, you also have a government that can take everything from you. And when they can give to you, they can control you. And when they can control you, you have no individuality, you have no freedom to think. Because the second you start thinking outside the box, you are the enemy, you are the threat to the system. The Republican Party doesn't have to do that. We want lower taxes. Everybody wants lower taxes. We believe in the Second Amendment, personal self-defense. Everybody should have the right to defend themselves. We believe in family. Everyone should love their family. We believe in God, and we put God above a lot of things. Well, the progressives are anti-God. They're not conservative. They don't. They say that they're conservative and they love God, but then support policies like abortion and say that they're. How do you say that in the same stretch? It's not possible. Okay, it's not possible. The ones who corrupt the innocent, the ones who kill the innocent, are automatically an abomination before the eyes of God. So how can you align yourself with a party like that? So these were some of the revelations that I noticed as I got older, and I started to see that the Democrat Party is not even a Democrat Party anymore today. The Democrat Party today is, I would call it the Democratic Socialist Party, or essentially the Socialist Party, because they're pushing for things that don't really benefit our country. Like, what are the things that Joe Biden wants to do? What are some of the things that the Democrat Party wants to do for the United States? Other than Orange Man bad, give us his taxes. Orange Man bad, give us his taxes. Impeach Orange Man bad. You know, whatever you say, tidal wave hair, Orange Man bad. That's their stances. And that's you can really see the enthusiasm between what's going on between the two sides. Like the RNC, not certain if you watched it, or the DNC. I was watching the DNC, and it was a total joke. It seemed like they were laughing in the faces of the minority community in our struggle. They were just utilizing emotion, pander. You know, what about the illegals? What about the black people that we care so much about? Even though Black Lives Matter is making billions of dollars, because it's an international movement to the point that they're doing Black Lives Matter protests in Japan, and they're giving it to a lot of our political candidates. How was it that Joe Biden was able to break a fundraising record and raise about $736 million when practically no one in the United States supports this guy? Interesting. Why is Black Lives Matter donating most of their income to Democratic candidates? Interesting. Why is it that every time there's an election cycle, there's always a peak in racial tension? There's always a peak in these kinds of situations, like George Floyd, Trayvon Martin examples. For example, why does that always happen? Is there any correlation between the two? How much money does Black Lives Matter actually spend on the inner city? After all, they're making billions at this point. You're fooled if you don't think Black Lives Matter is making billions. Look up the financial reports. You can find all this information on their website directly. You know, they don't stand for African Americans. They don't stand for Black people. They don't. On their website, they talk more about protecting transsexuals than they do about protecting African American men like me. They do more talking about gender and all this other stuff that has nothing to do or plays a very, very small role in the protection of African Americans and Black people than police brutality. They've got their focus on being anti-nuclear family. They don't believe in the nuclear family system, mother, father, children, family, all under one roof. They call it patriarchal because there's a bunch of psychotic feminist witches, and they are witches, okay, who practice witchcraft. They're running Black Lives Matter, telling you what to believe. They don't believe in men. They don't want strong men. What they want is feminized men. They want transsexuals. They want all these things to represent the Black Lives Matter movement. They're trying to make the Black Lives Matter movement into this giant umbrella, and nothing against transsexuals, by the way, I'm just saying. But, you know, they want to turn Black Lives Matter into this giant umbrella organization of a bunch of social justice causes while completely deviating from what's being done. And nothing is actually being done. Like I told you earlier today about the Jameek Lowry situation. I went to the city, not the city, I went to the police department about 2 or 3 weeks ago where Black Lives Matter Paterson, and they took the time to differentiate themselves from the actual Black Lives Matter organization because they believe that Black Lives Matter is a bunch of Marxist, radical nut jobs, essentially, right? And they really wanted to differentiate themselves from that. And while they're painting this Black Lives Matter mural, I'm talking to one of the leaders of the group, or one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter group. Losing my train of thought. But I'm speaking to this guy in the middle of the street, and I'm asking him about, do you believe that the administration here in Paterson or the existing administration in the state believes that Black lives actually matter? And he said no. And he said, why? I said, well, because, you know, we're making noise and we're protesting, but it's like, you know, they're not really doing anything for us. And I was like, so, and I spoke with him about the Jameek Lowry situation. I was like, you believe that Paterson gave justice to Jameek Lowry, a Black man who we still don't have any transparency as what happened? He says, no. He's like, but they'll allow you to paint a big, giant, stupid mural that does absolutely nothing for the Black community to be painted in the middle of the street. You really believe that they believe Black Lives Matter? Well, nah, but it's a symbol. It's just a slogan to get forward, you know, just to show that we're making progress. I'm like, progress in what sense? You literally just told me that there's no justice, right? These guys will march around, no justice, no peace. Let's march like a bunch of sheep, but they'll do nothing to actually call out the nonsense. You can paint in the street. We care about you. Pascal, you should vote for me because Black Lives Matter. For 23 years, nothing but nonsense has been happening within the African American community here in Paterson. A lot of Black on Black shooting, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, strife happening here. And you do nothing about it, but you could paint that mural on the street because, yo, bro, Black Lives Matter, you heard? Black Lives Matter. No, that's the way they carry themselves. So when I see this kind of stuff, and then I was even reading an article earlier today where there was and I still need to look more into this because I need to verify the accuracy of this. Thus far, everything I've verified has been accurate. But I seen a story today where there was a Chinese organization, maybe you know a little bit more about that, Erman. There's an association in communist China that is aligning itself with Black Lives Matter and helping them to push this. Interesting, because you see, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen the videos by now of how the Chinese are treating the Africans that are in China during this whole COVID crisis. They're beating them and locking them up, throwing them out of their houses and treating them like absolute garbage because they, I don't know, have an opinion that Black people have COVID or something, right? But these guys are aligning with Black Lives Matter. You really think they have your best interests at heart? LeBron James will get down and kneel and talk about how bad the United States is and how such an evil country, but he won't talk about the Muslim Uyghurs or the Chinese Christians that have been locked up in concentration camps and having their hair shaved off and some of them even being killed and having some of their money being, having some of their organs even being harvested, right? He won't talk about that. He won't talk about the slave labor that's going on in China that's used to profit, that's used for him to profit off of Nike and the other great deal endorsements that he's got through China. He won't say anything because he's the mouthpiece of the Chinese government. Like he posted on Twitter the other day where he posted at like 10 something o'clock. All right, so, you know, he posted a post on 9/11 not too long ago talking about how 9/11 was just another day. He's spreading all this propaganda without actually standing up for the United States, but he's going to stand up for the people that are against us because money talks. I read Pill too long, Erman. Sorry about that. He said 10 minutes. You're right. Still there? There we go.
You know, it's all good. No, I said 10 minutes, but I was like, you know what? I mean, I don't like to censor nobody. You know, for me, this whole platform is not about agreeing with you or not disagreeing or not agreeing with you. It's just about letting you speak your mind, you know? So I didn't mean to stop you. It was just I was just telling you that you can keep going if you want.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No, but the reason I bring it up is because you talked about Orange Man Bad. You talked about how Trump is treated by the media. However, I mentioned it because you have your own run-in with fake news. If people visit your page, we see it. How I don't want to say their organization's names, but there are certain media outlets that called you up, knowing that you are on the right, knowing that you're running for office as a Republican, trying to clump you with. They try to clump you with QAnon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these outlets, just because you're running as a Republican, they automatically assume that you're fringe. There's no longer moderates. It's automatic extremists, right? So talk about your experience with the media.
So funny that you bring that up because there's several news organizations that call me, but only 3 of them I actually have on video. 2 of them are on my Instagram, and 2 of them one of them an organization I used to like a lot, Vice, but they're absolute fake news. They're just brainwashed, morons at this point. But then Vox, Axios, New York Post, a few of these organizations have reached out to me, and I've recorded them because they would all call me essentially saying like, hey, Billy, we want to talk more about your campaign, right? I'm like, okay, I'll get on the phone with them and talk with them. Only for them to get on the phone and say, hey, we heard that, we saw a picture of you at a Trump rally where some people were standing there and they had a Q flag, and we wanted to know why you support the conspiracy, the far right conspiracy of QAnon. And I would say all the time, when did I say I supported it? Oh, well, I mean, you took a picture with some guys. I was like, so that means support? You know what I mean? I'm like, that's where your logic comes from. And then I would always ask them questions like, what do you know about my campaign? Oh, well, we know you won your primary. We know you're a Republican. Okay. Do you know about any of my policies? No, I don't. And then I would just go on to rip them on all my policies and say, you guys are fake news. This is why you guys are fake. Because you guys are calling a Republican, right? First time we've had an African-American, young African-American, first-generation Air Force veteran from one of the worst parts of Paterson that's running for Congress, trying to go against the system as a Republican. That's a gold mine of a story against a 23-year incumbent who's been untouchable for decades. And you want to write an entire article based on a picture that you can't even verify my support or unsupport. Even more importantly than that, it's like the answer and my stance to the whole QAnon thing is similar to what the president says. Like, do I follow it? I know of it. I've heard of it. I've heard of it multiple times. A lot of the things they talk about is, ending human trafficking and putting an end to that kind of stuff. Who in the world wouldn't want to go against something like that? Who in the world won't want to stop it? They'll go out and say like, oh, but you're talking like, QAnon talks about that there's an elite group of pedophiles in the United States that are, yes, they exist. Do you not see what happened with Jeffrey Epstein? Did you not see the flight logs? And that's just in Epstein's case. That's not in the case of, we even see lots of cardinals in the Catholic Church that are being arrested for things like this. Teachers, people in child protective services, judges, military officers, people in very high profile situations, AKA the elites, are getting arrested for this kind of stuff. You even see Netflix right now putting this despicable, absolutely disgusting pedophile film on there, that Cuties film, and they think they can get away with it. But I'm crazy for calling out the fact that there's an elite group of pedophiles in literally every branch of society. They exist. They're in front of our face, but they want to make us look crazy for calling out the truth. This is why we need people that are willing to go out and call out the truth. That's why I'm going out and I'm calling these people out. They called me to try and write a hit piece. All these organizations, every single news organization, mainstream organization that called me to try and write a hit piece on this Q thing. Yet they know nothing about me. They know nothing about my policies. They don't know my story. They don't know anything about me other than I took a picture of someone with a Q flag. I'm against human trafficking. I'm against all that crazy stuff. I see what's happening on TV. I see people like Kevin Spacey and Wildstein, what's his name? Harvey Weinstein and all these guys getting arrested. Like, what are we gonna? We're gonna sit here and pretend that there's really not some very, very, very rich people that are getting away with this kind of stuff? They're getting away with this stuff all the time. But to say that this is going on, you're crazy because it's associated with Republicans, it's associated with Donald Trump. What if we can write an article to make this random black guy look as crazy as possible? So they'll be like, oh, don't vote for him. He's just some crazy black guy with dreadlocks. But then I set the record straight and I put them in their place and I put them on social media and I want the world to see this. Because even if I tell somebody, does anybody can deny it, I want the world to see that this is how they come at you. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in who's going to click the link and read the article. They're interested in the headline. They're interested in anything that they can use to push a narrative, not the truth. And then they meet a guy like Billy who just doesn't give a damn.
Hey, I got to say, there was a few times on Instagram where I would try to promote a post, hashtag human trafficking. No, yes. Nothing to do with QAnon, nothing specific, nothing saying no WWGA. What is it called? With whatever that is, you know, the hashtag, right?
Yeah.
None of that, but just the hashtag alone, human trafficking, I can't promote, I can't boost it on IG because they automatically reject it. So I see where you're coming from. Yeah. So,
and it's like, you know, what blows my mind is like there's groups, organizations. They're one of the only charities that I donate to other than Wounded Warrior Project, but Operation Underground Railroad. I seen that you were even doing some posts about these guys. I found out about them like maybe 3 years ago. I used to be very big into like online marketing and building websites, Facebook ads and stuff like that. And the founder of a company called ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, he started promoting them and talking about this. And that was the first time that I heard this. Is like, we're talking like 3 years ago, like maybe 3-4 years ago, before the president even was that big. Like, and hearing this kind of stuff, I'm like, what? There's a guy that he's former Homeland Security. He left his job with all these other veterans to go to the other side of the world and rescue children where no one else will go in. It's like, I get chills just thinking about it. Cause I'm like, oh my God, that's like a dream job. Like I would love to beat the crap out of these pedophiles and like really take them to justice, you know? And there's someone that's actually doing it. There's a lot of people that put their money where their mouth is and actually did it, to the point where I start seeing all these you know, very influential people in society that are supporting them and seeing what they're doing. You can see that with your own eyes. There's documentaries and videos about what they do. You see this with your own eyes, and people will still tell you that this is not happening. That's sick. That is very, very sick, because like that really tells you where the mindset of our world is right now, what society wants people to believe. They want us to believe something that is a problem is not a problem, just so that they can be comfortable in their own narrative. But then they'll make fun of people that are calling it out because they don't want to have their reality, their entire idea shattered like glass. It's sad, man. It's sad, and it makes me sick.
And let's go there. I want to jump back into the media's involvement and how people react to this election, because I do feel like there's involvement. There's intention there, you know, with the way people create headlines, with the way they twist words. I mean, I'll be honest with you, both sides, not just, I mean, yeah. Left, but both sides can do it, right?
Totally.
And we are, like I said, in this space where it's orange man bad. But if you ask somebody specifically, hey, show me something where he said something that was racist, right? And they're fumbling, like,
Yeah. What do you mean? How are you not paying attention? Are you kidding me? He's such a racist. You know, didn't you see what he said about Mexicans? What did he say? I can't believe I'm having this conversation with you. Answer the question. They can't answer the question because they don't even know what the hell they're talking. Somebody told them what to believe. And they can't pull it. Here's a very famous one that happens all the time. People go and they talk about the Charlottesville riots, right? When a guy comes in his car, drives like a maniac, and Donald Trump, they take the first clip of what he said. When he said, you know, there were people that were there in support of the Robert E. Lee statue, some people that are there that were against it, and it was very fine people on both sides, right? Then they cut it off right there. They don't show the rest of the clip where he goes on to say, like, you know, should we just go around and just destroying all of our statues and just destroy our history because people don't agree with it? And he was like, listen, man, there were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the white supremacists, the neo-Nazis, the KKK. They should be condemned totally. I'm not talking about them. There were people that were here for the statue. There were people that were here not for the statue. And there were very fine people. And then there were antagonists like Antifa that were there, you know, and they should all be ashamed for not telling the truth. He said this on TV. He said this, but the media only cut that first clip. There's very fine people. Look at him. He's trying to say that the Nazis are fine people. Even though if you watch the clip, like not even 30 seconds after, he specifically and he targets them specifically to tell them that I do not support this kind of stuff. But the media will get you to believe what they want to believe. And when you show these clips, for example, I was at a rally in Parsippany not too long ago talking to this sheep, who's out there with this sign that says, Parsippany isn't racist. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not racist? Nobody said that it's racist. It's like, what are you implying? Oh, all these people here are racist. And I walk over there with my friend, Puerto Rican guy as well, so he's got dreadlocks as well. He goes like, yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, bro. Am I a racist too? He's like, oh no, I didn't say that. I was like, oh, I support Trump. Does that make me a racist? He's like, no. I was like, well, I'm black. In fact, I'm blacker than black. I'm African. Okay, I just happen to be an American. Am I a racist because I support President Trump? Oh no, it doesn't. I don't mean that. I was like, so then what is the sign? Parsippany isn't racist mean? Donald Trump is creating all these races. All those people over there are racist. I was like, I just came from over there. Did you speak to any of those people? No, I don't associate with racists. And I'm like, you're calling people you don't know a racist. You don't want to speak with these people and hear where they're coming from. And you're talking about that they're inciting violence, but you're here with a sign that's incendiary. You're implying that people you don't even know are racist. But you won't say that to me because I'm black. You won't say that to my friend because he's Puerto Rican. Who's the real racist here, dude? You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And I love putting people like this on the spot, man. I love putting people like this on the spot because these are people who have ingested all of the nonsense the media has told them throughout time, right? The media has been saying this, the media's been talking about this, also it must be true. Even though it's not true at all, But it's easier to just subscribe to that narrative than it is to think for yourself. Because you start thinking for yourself, you start losing friends, you become the outcast, you're just not a part of the herd, right? But the people, there's more people today that are leaving the herd than actually joining the herd. Look at the rallies all across the country, right? Look how people are enthusiastic to see Joe Biden, like 50 people? People that are enthusiastic to see Trump, the whole freaking city is red, white, and blue. Everywhere, They don't want the truth to come out, And I'm sick of that. Shout out to the fake news media.
I bring it up because to be completely upfront with you, in the state of California, I'm registered as independent, right? I have friends on both sides, and on my social media, I'm friends with everybody. I don't care where you stand. I'm your buddy, right? But when you turn on TV, say you turn NFL or NBA, they're one-sided. Right? So when it's a popularity contest, when society at a large supports one thing, we tend to think that if you don't think that way, you're the enemy, right?
Right.
On social media, I swear to you, like in the last 2 months, there must have been 50 people on my social media list. I have followers every single day who are coming out to me as conservative or Republican because I'm like they feel like I'm the only person they can talk to. Because I'm friendly.
I feel the same way.
People in LA, and you know how LA is.
Yeah.
People in the entertainment industry, you know how the entertainment industry is. And here's Erman. Hey, I can talk to this guy because he's friends with everybody. Like he's not partisan at all. So they come out, dude. It's like people I've known for years. They're not racist. I know them.
Yeah.
But they support a certain ideology. So they're just there's fear in them. They're like, oh my God, I can't tell nobody because I will get canceled.
It's true.
So it is going on, and I do think it's unfair. If I can be biased a little bit, I do think it's unfair because I come from a perspective of free speeches. I love free speech. I feel like anyone, regardless of where you stand, should be able to express themselves without being shut down immediately.
Absolutely, I agree.
Because and you got people like you running for office. Like that's the boldest thing you can do.
Yeah, and I kind of want to kind of circle up and wrap around here. I want to encourage a lot of the people that are watching this that by now you should see I'm not a politician, okay? I'm a regular person that's frustrated. There's a lot of people that are frustrated. There's a lot of people that support me because they know that I realize that they're frustrated. People say all the time, Billy, man, you're doing great things. I wish there was someone like you in my town. And I really hate when people tell me that because that's someone like me in your town is you. because if you feel that way, that person is you, okay? I got into this in February. I'm not a politician. I'm frustrated. You're frustrated. Someone like me in your town is you. You just have to stop being afraid and actually get up and spread your words. I mean, and speak the truth, you know? Sure, you're going to get canceled. Sure, you're going to get cut off. People are going to try and destroy you. People are trying to do that right now. Friends that I've had for decades would cut me off because they're like, oh, Bill's a racist now. Bill hates black people, even though I'm way blacker than them, and I can trace my bloodline all the way down to my great-great-great-great-grandfather. They have no idea, but I'm the one who hates black people, right? But then as I started to grow and I started to speak the truth, even the people that cut me off can't help but look at me and say, you know what? Billy's actually telling the truth. You know, I had a friend yesterday even who, you know, and this guy was like my brother, you know, yeah, he is my brother. I still call him that, you know. We had a falling out very early on in this race where, you know, we just kind of blocked me, cut me off, and it really broke my heart because this is a guy who, you know, we've been through everything. People will try and jump us. We've been shot at, all kinds of stuff. Like, we've been through a lot together, me and this guy, you know, and he just cut me off. I ran into him yesterday. He really helped me out. I got a flat tire yesterday. It was a really bad story, whatever. But I spoke with him. And I was like, you know, man, no matter what our differences are, yo, dude, like, you know, I want you to know I love you and I support you. Thank you for coming out for me. And he was like, you know, Bill, like, you know, a lot of what you're doing, bro, it's like, you know, I may not see eye to eye with what you're saying politically, but you're actually doing something. You know what I'm saying? You're actually doing something. There's a lot of people that like to complain, but they're not doing anything. You're actually getting up and you're doing something, you know? And I don't think a lot of people understand like how much I put into this. Like, this whole entire campaign up until recently has been ran all by myself. The Facebook ads, the video editing, the video recording, the website design, the graphic arts, going out and meeting with people, figuring out the paperwork and all this stuff. All of this has been done all by myself. And yesterday when my friend was coming, he was coming to help repair my rims because I actually fell asleep while I was driving. You know, earlier in the day, I was at a fundraiser and then all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place, like really trying to do something big for my district, you know? And sometimes it's going to take that, you know? And a lot of people aren't willing to put everything to the side for a bunch of people that they don't know in their city, you know? But you got to ask yourself, man, at some point you're going to die, all right? At some point you're going to die. It's a fact. How do you want to be remembered? You want to be remembered as the guy who just went along to get along? Or you want to be remembered as the guy who actually gave a damn and did something, you know? I don't want to be the guy who went along to get along, you know? I want to be remembered. I don't need statues. I don't need to be on the next piece of currency. I don't need a Nobel Peace Prize. I need that word of mouth. Like, I remember Billy went out and he put his money where his mouth is and he kicked ass. That guy was seriously for us. And you know what? He was so much for us. I want to be the next Billy. You know? People need to be the next Billy. You know, you don't have to be some Ivy League douchebag in a suit and tie to run the country.
There you go. That's a great way to end this. And, you know, I think people just need to take a time to listen to each other, because when you listen to somebody who you typically wouldn't agree with, you actually learn something, right? So before we go, Billy.
Hang on, sorry. Repeat that last
part. Oh, no, what I was just saying was I think people do need to take the time to listen to each other, because you'll actually learn something from somebody who you don't agree with if you took the time to sit down with them. I think we cut people off too quickly. We tap out too quickly when we find out they don't agree with us. So
right.
I learned so much from you, Billy. Thank you so much for your time. Before we go, do you want to leave your number?
Here's what I will say. You can get my phone number. It's on my website. I want people to actually look at my policies. I'm not the kind of guy that just says, hey, vote for me because, you know, Republican. Even when people want to donate money to me, I always tell them, even on my issues page, before you make a donation, you see all of my issues. I want people to give me money because you believe in me and you want me to actually do the things that I say that I'm going to do, you know? So rather than just putting my phone number out there, I want people to actually go to my website, go through the stuff, look at some of this stuff, and give me a call after that, okay? I don't want like another Vox or New York Times, like, oh, we're just gonna skip all that and call Bill and say, hey, do you support, you know, conspiracy stuff? No, I want you to know Bill. Support Bill. If you support Bill, make a donation at billy2020nj.com. But more important than any dollar amount you can give me is spread the word. We have to build a massive army to do this, to get this done, not just from you to win, but for other Republicans to win. I'm giving hope to the next generation, the next kid that's watching me. You know what I mean? I saw Bill do it with literally no money. You know what I mean? And Bill did it. You know how much hope that gives the next generation? I want the next generation to be able to do that. I want the next generation of politicians to look at the politicians we have today and realize that this suit and tie guy stuff, this ain't it. This is not for the people. The people deserve real leadership. Real leadership means putting your money where your mouth is. And you got to be a real person to be able to, you know, put forth real policies. And yeah, so that's my stance. You want to learn more? Go and check me out, Billy2020nj.com. I'm on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter at Billy Prempeh. That's BILYPREMPH. You can also find me on Parler. I know I need to use Parler a lot more, but I'm also on Parler and Instagram. Instagram is my home base. Instagram and Parler, it's some guy named Bill. Yes, it really is some guy named Bill.
There you have it. And whether you are, whatever party you're in, it is refreshing to see the new GOP, young and diverse, such as yourself. So across the country, on this local and state level, young and diverse, it's beautiful. So thank you so much for your time today, Bill. Remember, Bill Prempeh, not Bill Pascrell, right?
That's correct. That's correct. You got to choose the red bill, not the blue bill. Erman, thank you for having me so much, man. Thank you.